had my 10-year med school reunion this weekend, and Friday night got the opportunity to hang out with a bunch of guys I hadn't seen in the last 10 years. Really cool catching up. Justin came in town, and we were up pretty late Friday night, but managed to get up real early Saturday morning. John Wilson was on cue at every workout. I certainly we're going to miss that. But John did a great job leading that free. Any of you men who want to get out and get a workout on Saturday mornings, we meet from 7 to 8. We either meet at Freedom Ridge or either meet at Biaggi's parking lot. We get out and get a workout for an hour, get your day going. By 8 o'clock, you're home, get your hard work, or get to hanging out with kids, whatever you want to spend your Saturday doing, but you feel good about doing it because you worked out. So John Wilson did a great job leading. It's great to see people in this class step up and become leaders. He also had an awesome little testimony and like kind of Bible study there at the end, which is really cool. So we are starting a 3-lesson series on geography as it relates to Israel. And the purpose of this is to kind of give you guys a framework so when you are reading the Bible, you kind of know where these places are. And you can picture them in your mind. You can maybe picture some of these mountains. You can picture these dusty trails that these guys ran down so that the Bible becomes more real to you. Because the Bible is very much a historical document, and everybody who's looked at the Bible from a scientific standpoint has verified that it is very historically accurate. And so this, what we're going to talk about today is the Exodus route. And believe it or not, I mean, people really don't know where the Israelites went and the exact route that they took when they took off running from Pharaoh, okay? We have a lot of clues, and if we look at the Bible, there are a ton of clues, and there's some archaeological evidence as well. But the biggest thing is the Bible, and this fellow by the name of Steve Rudd in 2006 went over there and really went through the Bible, and his thing was, and if you look at, if everybody has their Bibles with you, pull up right now and look at some of the maps and see if there's a map of the Exodus route. Because many of those maps that are in your Bible were put together based off archaeological evidence, and really some of the non-Christian scholars of where they think they went, but they're not completely supported by the Scripture. So what Steve Rudd did was in 2006, he went through and just studied this. And if you want to go to this Bible.ca, he's got a whole thing on it in there. He's a Church of Christ denomination, so it's Baptist, sometimes I wouldn't say read the whole website, but this right here in particular, I thought was very scholarly on his part. Everything, every assumption he made was based off verses in the Bible. So we pretty much think that the Goshen up here is the land of Pharaohs. This is the Nile River Valley. And our thought is that these Israelites took off and they went down through Egypt, but they went down into the wilderness down here. And this is the Gulf of Suez right here, and we think they went along this plain here because it was wide, it was flat, easy to take 2 million people down this highway. And then what they came to was a dead end down here. They kind of went up a little bit, and they hit this big mountain range. And then they had to do something, right? So they crossed the river. So there's been a lot of different theories as to where they crossed the Red Sea and what is the Red Sea. Based off the Bible verses, most people refer to the Red Sea as a Gulf of Aqaba, which is right here. Aqaba, which is right here. This is the Gulf of Suez. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. So the Gulf of Aqaba, according to Scripture, is probably what the Red Sea is. So some people think they may have come right through here and hit the Bitter Lake right here and crossed right here, which is a freshwater lake. It's pretty close to where they would have been leaving. Some people think they may have come right here and crossed the port of Suez. The problems with these theories is that you take 2 million people, instead of walking through a freshwater lake, why would you just walk around it? Okay. And also, if you're taking them through a lake that's only about 6 feet deep, that probably wouldn't drown the whole army of the Pharaoh's army. The problem with the port of Suez crossing was that, well, they would be crossing right here. Yeah, it is kind of shallow right there, but there's some mountains that overlook this cliff, and Pharaoh's army would have been over there looking and seeing where they were heading to, and would have just gone right around the corner, and they'd have been sitting there on lawn chairs waiting on them. So there's some problems with some of the theories out there, but if you look in your Bible, I think a lot of people have them crossing right here at the Nuevi Beach right here crossing, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to why we think they crossed where they crossed, why that was kind of a problem. But these places that they name along the route, we only know like 3 of them with certainty today where these places, beginning Goshen, and in the middle, and at the very end, Mount Nebo. Those are the only ones we know for sure. It's like God gave us a beginning, a middle, and an end point. But all the places in between that Moses doesn't talk about we can't really verify exactly where they were. So that's where kind of all this stuff comes from. So here's some chronological facts. The date of the Exodus was 1446 BC. Pharaoh, who killed the Hebrew children, was Amenhotep I. He was 1532 to 1511 BC. Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted Moses, was Hatshepsut, and she was in 1526. The Pharaoh of the Exodus was Tutmosis III, and this is Moses' stepbrother. Okay, so Hatshepsut was married to Tutmosis II. They had a son. He died. Okay, so then the throne went to Tutmosis III, which was Hatshepsut's stepson, Moses' stepbrother. Okay, Tutmosis III wasn't a very nice guy, as you know from reading the Old Testament, and we have the plagues, which culminated with Moses taking the Israelites and leaving. One of the things we don't know exactly that Tutmosis III was the Pharaoh, but the reason why they think that is because if you look at the historical evidence, he had a 17-year military campaign, and every year is recorded in the Egyptian history of his military campaigns, which abruptly ended in 1446. And why? Because his entire army drowned. So that, and then there's the erasure of his mother, Hatshepsut, which he went through and defiled all the monuments that had her name, pulverized anything that had her name or was a symbol of her. And he, in time after that, got rid of her name and tried to erase it from history. And they think the only reason why he did that was because of all that came out with Moses. So that's why they think he was the Pharaoh. Plus, it just kind of lines up from a historical standpoint on the timeline. When they left, they crossed the Red Sea on day 25 into their journey. And then they hit Mount Sinai, which we think is Mount Laws. They arrived there on day 45. And then they went to this place called Kadesh Barnea, which we believe is right by modern-day Petra. And they spent 38 years here. So the majority of their time wasn't just kind of like, going one spot to the other, hanging out in the desert. I mean, they were at Kadesh Barnea for a long time. And this is where they sent the spies into Israel. As you know, Josh and Caleb came back with the right report, and the 8 spies that came back with false reports. That all occurred at Kadesh Barnea. They crossed the River Jordan on 1406, and many scholars believe it was 40 years to the exact day that they actually left Egypt, which is kind of cool. So on this journey, we got 50 stops, we got 4 legs, we got 40 years. There's 3 stops between Goshen and the Red Sea, which we believe is right here where they crossed. We got 10 stops between the Red Sea and Mount Sinai, which we believe is right here. Okay, and then we've got 22 stops between Mount Sinai and Kadesh, which is going to be over here. And then we've got 15 stops between Kadesh Barnea and the Jordan River. And I believe Kadesh is somewhere over here. And then, of course, the Jordan River is over here. Of the stops, the only ones we know are Goshen, Ezion, Geber, and Mount Nebo are the only places that we know for sure certain of their modern-day location. So this is just kind of this map expanded here. And a lot of what Rudd's research was in. He believes they came along this border here of the Gulf of Suez. There's a big mountain range here. St. Catherine's Monastery is. They came through here. They ran out of room because they ran to the mountains. They crossed here, ended up in here, and then made a trip. Kind of really, this is North Saudi Arabia, and they made their way back up into Israel. There's a lot of, we'll go through here in a minute, there's some verses that say they had to get out of Egypt. Joshua says they went out of Egypt. This whole area is Egypt territory all the way to this river. Why the circuitous route? Okay, why didn't they just come out of Goshen and just cut right across here to Egypt? Anybody know? So Moses had what he's called, people refer to as an army of broken souls, about 2 million people. These people had spent 8 to 10 generations in slavery. Okay, they were beaten down, they were trodden. They weren't in the mood to go out and fight, right? And in Exodus 13:17, it says, "For God said, they face war, then they may change their minds and return to Egypt." So God led the people around by the desert road to the Red Sea. So a direct route, they come right through here. This is where the Moabites live. This is where all the Philistine nations were. They would have been picking a fight if they'd gone right through their territory. So we know, based off Exodus, that they took a circuitous route. Now, a lot of people have them kind of going right down through here and cutting over, and again, like we talked about, crossing right here, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So this is the exit, what's called the Exodus Highway. Okay, so when these people took off, and this is, I Google mapped this area, and I got a satellite image of this, and this is what it looks like, so you can kind of get an idea of the topography. They took off from Goshen here, and they came along this, and this is a very flat plain through here. Okay, you can see how flat it is on this map. And then you've got this very mountainous region here. In this area, it says it's about 20 kilometers wide. So they've got the Gulf on one side, they got the mountains on this side, and this is just a flat delta riverbed. Perfect to take 2 million people down. They can just walk. They don't have to climb. They can move, and they can move quickly. And we know they move quickly because they traveled at night and had a fire leak, and they traveled during the day and had a cloud over protecting them from the sun. So Israel departed from Goshen. They hiked 275 miles down the southeastern coastal plain into the Straits of Tiran, which is right here. Okay, it's a perfect highway for 2 million people, but there's a dead end. There's Pi Hahiroth, which is right here. This dead end right into this mountain range. Pharaoh knew the Israelites had to kind of retrace their steps and back up a little bit to maybe try to cross or do something, or they had to go into the mountains. And they thought they had them trapped, and they were literally prepared for a slaughter. Because these people can't go anywhere. They either got to climb, or they got to swim. But Pharaoh had an ace in his pocket, right? The secret part of the Red Sea. So if we were to kind of put this in our perspective here, okay? We got a Google map here. I like to go down to the beach, down in Orange Beach, and if we were going to hike from Jackson, Mississippi, and go head southeast, this would kind of be, it would actually be a little bit farther than this. It may take us to Destin. But you can see it would probably take us 85 hours. That's if we didn't take a break. So it'd be a pretty good hike, wouldn't it? So taking 2 million people this far just to get to the Red Sea crossing, this doesn't include the other half that they're going to have to get. Kind of puts it into perspective. And here we can see how they were trapped by this mountain range. The Catherine Mountain Range here. Pi Hahiroth was here. They described Etham as the wilderness, as the edge of the wilderness, and they were trapped. They were trapped by the mountains, trapped by the water. So what they did was they took a little jog and they came back right here. And it's thought that they may have crossed right here. Philo is a Jewish Roman scholar, and he claims that they were enclosed like a shoal of fish. So Etham, we know from Numbers 33:6, was referred to as the distant edge of the wilderness. And so if these people took off into the wilderness, the distant edge of that wilderness would be the farthest point they could go. So, and then in Exodus 14:3 it says, "For Pharaoh will say of the sons of Israel, they are wandering aimlessly in the land, and the wilderness has shut them in." So why did it look like they were wandering? Well, it probably looked like they were wandering because they went up to Etham and realized they couldn't go any farther because of the mountain range, and so they turned around and started backtracking. People started backtracking. Too many people are going one way, and then a few days later they're coming back the other way. It looks like they're wandering aimlessly. So Pharaoh knew the geography better than anybody, and he had his army camped down here waiting on them to turn back because he knew they couldn't go any further. Gulf of Suez. So then we have to figure out where they crossed. Now, this is the Gulf of Aqaba right through here. Okay, and the Gulf of Suez we saw on the other side. Those are very deep bodies of water. Okay, they're a half mile to a mile deep in the middle. That's deep, particularly for a Gulf. And so where they may have crossed, we talked about the problems in the other areas. Pharaoh's army probably just met them on the other side, or if at the Bitters Lake, they part of the water. When it crashed on, it was in 6 feet of water. Those chariots and those horses would have just been swimming through that. Okay, they think it may have been down here because this place known as the Straits of Tiran is a natural land bridge, and it's only at this max depth 600 feet, but it averages about 100 to 200 feet across that. And the max depth is what the max depth is now, and it's a shipping channel. So they dredge it out so they can bring in ships into here and conduct trade. But the max depth is 600. It's a natural land bridge, and it's a coral reef that goes along that bottom. It's only about a half mile wide. So they think that these guys came through here, they couldn't go anywhere else, and you've got these Straits of Tiran. It's kind of a natural land bridge coming through here. And if the wind picked up and parted the sea, and they were able to get in and go out. The problem with trying to part up here, with it being a mile deep, the slopes were 60 degrees on each side. And if anybody seen a 60-degree slope, I mean, that is an amazing slope. To take 2 million people down a 60-degree slope and back up a 60 degrees on the other side, Sure, it could have happened, and it could have happened over here, and the Lord could have provided for that, but the Lord had to brought in some dirt. Okay? He had to bring in some dirt with that wind for them to cross in one of these deeper spots up here where a lot of your maps have. So we really think that they may have actually crossed right here at the Straits of Tiran just by the route that they were taking, Israel, and a lot of the clues in the verses, and the fact that they backtracked. We think that they probably crossed right there, which I think is really cool. So again, here we have them kind of coming through here, crossing right here, and then they up in the wilderness of Shur. So where is Mount Sinai? Do anybody know where Mount Sinai is? Do we know for sure where Mount Sinai is? We really don't. Okay? We think we may know. This picture that you see here was a mountain called Mount Sinai in this mountain range that we just said they hiked around. And it's sitting right here in the middle, and there's a monastery around this area. The problem with this being the Mount Sinai in the Bible is that once they crossed the Red Sea, we knew that they were out. There's several verses, including Joshua, that says once we crossed the Red Sea, we were out of Egypt. And so for them to be out of Egypt and then hike 11 days towards Mount Sinai, well, it doesn't really make sense that they would cross and then somehow end up staying in Egypt territory. And there's some people who dispute that this was Egypt territory, but there's tons of historians, there's tons of verses, which we'll kind of get into in a minute, that says the border for the Egyptian territory, for the Egyptian territory is the river of Egypt, which comes right through here. Okay. So we don't think that was the true Mount Sinai. Why is it not in Egypt? I kind of just went through this. Moses wasn't out of Egypt until he was off the Sinai Peninsula. Because in Joshua 24, it says, I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea, and in Egypt, and pursued your fathers, and chariots, and horsemen, to the Red Sea. The Bible clearly defines the Sinai Peninsula as the Egyptian territory, since the border between Egypt and Israel has always been the river of Egypt, which is Wadi El Arish, is referred to in the Hebrew language. And then in Genesis it says, on the day the Lord made his covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I've given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. So there, the Lord even talks about what the border would be. And then here it says in 1 Kings, so Solomon observed the feast at the time, and all of Israel with him, a great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt. The brook of Egypt, same thing here, river of Egypt, same thing. Before the Lord our God for 7 days, and 7 more days, and 14 days. And here in Ezekiel it says, the south side towards the south shall extend from Tamar as far as the waters of Meribeth Kadesh to the brook of Egypt, to the great sea. This is the south side. This is the south side towards the south. Okay? It's the southern end of Israel here they're talking about. When Israel crossed the Red Sea, they were, quote unquote, out of Egypt, and they were really over in this area of North Saudi Arabia. If Israel would have spent 11 months at Mount Sinai, I think they spent 11 months at Mount Sinai, why would they have done it if it was inside Egypt's territory? What would they have done? Mobilize more forces, and they would come right back after them again, particularly after their army just sunk. So back to this big map. So we're thinking that it's Mount Masuz, this area here is not Mount Sinai, but really it was over here, and we'll get more reasons as to why Mount Sinai is here. But again, they crossed over here. They went to Mount Sinai, spent 11 months there. We think it was this Mount Walls, which is right here. So where's Mount Sinai? So do y'all remember, this is one of the cool things about this class, we went through Galatians, and we read Galatians 4, and we kind of read this message, and we tried to, we interpreted it. It was essentially an allegory that Paul was talking about, but Paul is using a historical allegory. And he says, this is allegorically speaking, for these women are two covenants, one proceeding from Mount Sinai, bearing children who are to be slaves. She is Hagar. You remember Hagar, right? Now this is Hagar in Mount Sinai in Arabia. So Abraham, had a child with Hagar, and they had who? Ishmael, right? Okay. So now this, Hagar, is Mount Sinai in Arabia. So this is Paul, okay? You can pull your Bible and read it right now. He says Mount Sinai is where Hagar is, and that's in Arabia, okay? In correspondence to present Jerusalem, for she is in slavery with her children, but Jerusalem above is free. She is our mother. And I'm not going to read the rest of this, but you guys get the picture here. So Hagar equals Ishmael equals Midian equals Arabia, which equals Mount Sinai. Josephus says Mount Sinai. Josephus was a huge historian, Hellenistic Jew, who helped the Romans essentially write history, kept up with history for Romans, particularly with regards to the Jews. He was like considered a little bit of a state diplomat, maintaining the historical records. Josephus said that Mount Sinai was the highest location in the area. Josephus too thought Mount Sinai was in Arabia. Mount Jebel Laws fits this description. It's 8,465 feet. It's the tallest mountain in that range. There's a guy by the name of Ron Wyatt who kind of went over there and illegally kind of got in the country of Saudi Arabia, took a bunch of pictures and claims to have found like a table and some historical archaeological evidence at the base of this mountain. And kind of said, he said, this is why it's Mount Sinai, because I found this archaeological. I said, well, nobody's been able to actually say that that's actually true. So I wouldn't go with Ron Wyatt's archaeological discovery if you're kind of looking for a scholarly way of looking at this. But I think it is great to look at the Bible, and if Paul said Mount Sinai is in Arabia, you can go with that. So there's this interesting, this is probably not the case, but there is this split rock up there. It talks about the split rock. And there is a rock that's eerily similar to maybe the one that was split. Now you can see here's an old map here, and what do we see here in this old map? They still think Mount Sinai is over here, but they think they may have crossed right in here, and we talked about how this may be problematic. But we really think that that Mount Sinai is right over here, which is Mount Jebel Laws. And they hit this place, stayed here 11 months before they started making their way to Kadesh Barnea. So where's Kadesh Barnea? Okay. The Israelites spent 38 years here. The only thing that we really have to say where Kadesh Barnea is what Josephus said. Josephus calls the Sinai Peninsula Egypt, and he pins Kadesh around modern Petra. Have you guys seen pictures of modern Petra? So modern Petra is like is an ancient rock city, okay? And it was formed, of course, after the Israelites would have come through there. But they built these. They essentially had their buildings carved out of stone in the mountain face, which is really cool. And I wish Bill was here because I think he went to Petra. Leslie,
yes.
Yeah. There's a picture of him on the camel outside of I think this building here is just a really cool shot.
So Indiana Jones, by the way.
That's right. And so Josephus said that Aaron was buried at Mount Hor, which is just a couple of miles from where modern Petra is. So according to Josephus, we really think that these people stopped right around in this area before they entered the Promised Land. It was from here, from the protection of these rock cliffs, that they sent in the spies and they kind of hide out before they enter the Promised Land. So this is where Petra is right here. So you get an idea. Here's the Egyptian border, the Jordan River. So you get an idea as to how close they were to getting over here into Israel. Mount Nebo. Okay, does anybody remember about Mount Nebo?
Moses died.
That's where Moses died, exactly. So Moses, God told Moses he couldn't enter the Promised Land, right? But he allowed him to go up to the top of Mount Nebo and view the Promised Land. And we know where Mount Nebo is, and here you can see it as a picture. You can go tour Mount Nebo now if you go take a tour of the Holy Land. And there's a little placard here kind of showing all the areas that you can see from Mount Nebo. You can really see all the Promised Land, which is really cool. So the last thing I want to tell y'all is the Exodus was truly a miracle, okay? And we're going to read a few verses here. It says, the Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they may travel by day and by night. And we know that they made incredible time based off these numbers. The only way that they could do that is if they were traveling at night. If you take too many people, you're not leaving anybody behind. You got people who are in shape, probably a lot of people who are out of shape, right? You're marshaling down a desert highway. The fact that they didn't get sunburned and die out there, and the Lord provided them manna to eat and shade from the sun and gave them water to drink is a pretty amazing feat. The clothes on your back did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during this 40 years, like Deuteronomy 8:4. I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. The clothes on your back have not worn out, the sandals on your feet have not worn out, Deuteronomy 29:5. And then here at Psalm, you see the Psalms David talking about, he says, then he bought them out with silver and gold among his tribes, was not one who stumbled. Egypt was glad when they departed, for the dread of them had fallen upon them. He spread a cloud for a covering and a fire to illuminate by night. They asked, and he brought quail and satisfied them with the bread of heaven. He opened the rock, and water flowed from it. It ran into the dry places like a river. So that's all I've got. So Exodus is pretty cool. We don't know exactly where it happened, but hopefully by this discussion you can look at your Bibles and at least think critically about where you think they may have gone. And of course, this is not law, just because I've talked about this morning doesn't make this the exact route. But I think based off the evidence out there, if you really look at the verses, this is probably the route that they took. And also, we didn't talk about that. They found like an old Egyptian like dynasty chariot wheels had been found around that strait where they think they may have crossed. So I think that's pretty good. That's some decent evidence right there that maybe the whole army got swallowed up. And they said that nobody's gone and archaeologically looked and searched the bottom of the Gulf of Aqaba, but that if they got the people who can survey the bottom, like the Titanic people found the Titanic, they think they may could find some archaeological evidence. It just hasn't been done yet. So a lot of this stuff is kind of fresh. So, any questions? All right. Next week, what are we doing next week? Cody, you talk next week?
Bill.
Okay. Bill's going to talk about the places that Jesus' ministry took place inside of Israel. So now we've left Israel. Now we left Israel, went through the desert. Now, next week, we're going to go into Israel, and we're going to figure out, kind of put some places and some names and faces in Israel. We'll compare it to the size of Mississippi. Israel's about the size of Mississippi Delta, y'all. It's not very big. I mean, so the places Jesus walked around and stuff, and where he went, you could easily go back there and kind of retrace his steps and get a feel for where he was. So hopefully this can put a picture in your mind as to where a lot of these places are in the Bible. The Bible becomes more real to you. Who wants to lead?